Today I'm going to be talking about my experience and struggles as a young, unmarried Asian father. And as some of you guys may know from one of my previous podcasts, I talked about how I became a father, but I didn't really talk about my struggles and my experiences becoming a father. And I had this whole thought process, this whole ideology about like how you should have a kid when you don't even have like a idealistic circumstance, and how my circumstance was not really idealistic, and just talking about how this all came about. But I didn't really talk about my experience. I didn't really talk about my struggles, my opinions, and just from a very anecdotal perspective. So I figured I'd just talk about that because the last one was more so my thought process on how people should have kids and not be discouraged from having kids, right? But before I do that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Panda Ing, your Controvert podcast host, where we talk about problems with societal norms. Today's problem is about dating, kind of related to dating, but also the Asian experience, the Asian male experience. As an Asian man, I was born in California, in the greater Los Angeles area. And this is all very important, why I was born here, and how I was born in 626 San Gabriel Valley, where there's like a bunch of Asians, and as an Asian American, right? I think it's very important that I introduce myself because we're going to talk about how this all factors into the struggles I faced with how fast my life changed, having a kid, the struggles I faced being unmarried with my partner, not even having a boyfriend, girlfriend title yet, and the struggles that I face finding acceptance from my Asian parents and that other people may face as well. And lastly, the thoughts that I have on being unmarried and having a kid at a very young age, because I'm pretty young. Well, I'm 31 years old. It's not that young, but we'll get more into that later, so stick around. I think a good starting point is to talk about how this came about. I know I talked about it in the last podcast, but we'll give a little bit of a refresher and some bonuses. So this all started when I was dating a girl, and I thought she was pretty good. She was very stable. She had a good job. She had a really good personality. She was very patient. And then I ended it because I didn't really have deep feelings. I didn't have a great impact of affection. So I ended it, and we kind of reconvened later down the road because we were friends, and shit happened, right? And when we reconvened, that's what happened. I just said it, like shit happened, and I was asking her, "Hey, can I inside you?" I'm not gonna say it because of monetization purposes, but yeah, the rest is history from there, right? I go more in deeper in detail in the other podcast, so you guys could watch that if you guys want. But yeah, I knew the risks and I was okay with it, so I don't really call it like an accident. This is more so, I would say, a planned accident, a calculated accident. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I don't consider it an accident. Okay, I consider it very planned, and if you watch the other podcast, you'll see why. But going back to this, so I get a text from this girl, right? This girl that I'm talking to. Like, she's my partner now. So I get a text from her about a couple weeks after we, did the deed. And she goes like, "Hey, by the way, I don't know how to explain this to you, but..." And during that time, I was like, oh, shit. It happened. But at the same time, I was kind of ambivalent. Like, I was like a little bit happy too. I was like, okay, good. Like, I did tell her in the past, I was like, if this happens, then I would want it to happen. I would want it to happen with her, not with anyone else. So I was very keen on that. I didn't want to go back on my word, right? But after we had a couple talks, I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? I'm still like pretty young. I'm 31. And yeah, like some people might be thinking, okay, 31, that's the time to have kids, right? Well, we'll get into that later. But my thought process was, I'm still pretty young, and none of my friends have kids. A lot of my friends don't have kids. And I just feel like I still haven't really achieved a lot in my life to a point where I could have kids. So I was kind of rethinking everything. And the struggle that I want to talk about with this is that you as a man, you gave your word to a girl. If you tell a girl, hey, I think you're the girl, you should be the mother of my kids. You're the perfect match to be the mother of my kids. And you falter back on that, you're kind of a coward, you know? You're kind of no testicles at that point. And yeah, for sure, I did have some second thoughts about it, and I was stumbling with myself. But whenever I stumble across these issues and these obstacles, the biggest person I go to is my dad. So I was talking to my dad about this. But before I get into what I talked about with my dad, let me tell you about how it all went down with my parents, my Asian parents. Okay. So it's kind of funny because, okay, so basically, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. So I grew up in a family with three boys. Okay, it's me and my two older brothers. I'm the youngest brother. Okay, so my parents are very, very traditional. It's like my dad, he works hard, he makes like a lot of money, and my mom, she cooks and cleans, but she also works too. But I think there's a dichotomy that's required for like this higher level Asian family where you need like the Asian mom to work and to cook and clean and take care of the kids. And also like you need the dad to be taking care of all the shit that's happening and all the bullshit maintenance that needs to be upkept in the family or in the house, right? For example, water pipes breaking, for example, gardening work, for example, random stuff. For example, like we even have like coyote incidents. We even have like gopher problems, like eating up the garden, whatever, right? So I think there's a extreme level of dichotomy. And so my mom, like she took care of us, and my dad did in different ways, right? Okay. So it was very traditional still. I would still consider it very traditional. It did have its extremities, but on the flip side, it was also not traditional because with anything like girlfriends and like hooking up and just being a fuck boy, my parents were kind of like, yeah, go for it, which is kind of strange. Like they're kind of encouraging of it, not like, yeah, do it. But it was more like they would laugh about it and be like my mom would be like, Panda, stop that, you know. But she would like kind of laugh and want to hear more about it. And my dad was just like, oh yeah, that happened? Oh, show me a picture. I think this is important, like why I'm talking about this, because when I brought it up with my parents, I was like, hey mom, hey dad, I need to talk to you guys. Can we meet in the living room? Living room, we have like a sofa, kind of like this, like a sofa, a bigger sofa. And so we all sat down, me and my parents, not my partner, just me and my parents, okay? So when we sit down, my parents are like, what happened? I'm like, okay, guys, chill out. Nothing bad happened. Don't worry. It's not this bad this time. Because in the past, I got expelled from high school. I got suspended multiple times before I got expelled. I almost lost my life multiple times. So I think this time they're probably like, what crime did you commit? I was like, all right, guys, nothing happened. So they were stressed out, like any, I think, Asian parent would be. Like they would be like nerve-wracking, and you could kind of see like you could kind of see their hair kind of sticking up from their skin, right? But I assure them it's not anything bad. Maybe some Asian parents might think it's bad, but I told them, yeah, like, I knocked up a girl. And before this, there are some times where I was joking with them because they saw this girl and they were like, oh, she left? What'd you guys do? And I was like, oh, we did that, you know? Because they know this is like the second time around that like me and her started like hooking up again. So they were like very anxious to hear what happened during that time. And I told them, yeah, I even finished inside her. And yeah, if anything happens, fuck it. Like I'll take care of the kid, whatever. We'll both take care of it. Or she could have the kid and she, whatever, right? I'll be like Elon Musk And I was just making all these corny ass jokes, these extreme jokes. And then fast forward to now, I'm sitting here with my parents. I'm like, yeah, you guys remember that one time I was joking about that one girl that I would be down to have a kid with? Yeah, it happened. And they're like not even phased. I don't even know why. They were just like not shocked. They were just completely chill. They were just like sigh of relief as if like it was gonna be something crazier. But I was just looking in their eyes. I was like, what the hell? Are you guys like not surprised by this? What's going on? Like any other Asian parent would be, right? My mom, she was like, I think it's good. Like she's a good girl, but I think what you're doing is kind of wrong because you're not with her. And my dad was like, don't mind your mom. She's a good girl. Let's go have a dinner with her and like kind of get to know her. And so I was kind of mind blown by this because I was like, yeah, like any other Asian parent would be like crazy, but like they're super chill about it. I do think a big part has to do with how they raise three boys. I do think that like in any household with like boys, I think with this whole like hooking up and like just unprotected, you know what, they're a lot less strict than like they would be on girls, obviously, right? Because it's kind of like, okay, like you don't want to be abused by a guy. If you're my daughter, I don't want to see you getting abused. I don't know if this guy is good, so you have to watch out. But for a man, I think like a man has to take care of a lot of the things. Like he has to be a man, not bitch. Like for example, when I was talking about like I had a lot of concerns, but I didn't want to share those concerns with my partner at the time because I didn't want her to have second thoughts and just it all crumble down. Because I think a man, he really keeps it all together, kind of like glue. He's like the glue of the household. So I mean, there's even stats on this, right? Where like a single family father household, the kid has less psychoticness, grows up to be more normal. Whereas a single family mother household, the kid grows up to be having some sort of hysteria or some sort of like psychological issues. Mental well-being is not good. So going back to this parent thing, I also think that another factor that made my parents so chill is also because of these Asian American ideals, right? Because now our parents have to be more accepting of like how Americans are so open-minded. And I mean, from like very traditional parents, dude, I mean, my dad, if it was like years ago, he'd be fuming. Even if I was like 22 or something, like he would still be like fuming. Not just because of my age, but because of the tradition point of view. And I think from as time progresses, he has become more open-minded with the American ideals. I do think that it's probably not going to be for everyone, for all Asian families or all Asian households or all Asian fathers or mothers, right? But I'm sure it's getting more widespread for Asian Americans as like these fobs, these fresh off the boat Asians start to get more diluted, and it starts to be more like Asian American fathers and mothers, like Asians who were actually born here in America, right? For example, like me now, like when I teach my daughter, I'd probably be more open, but like because it's a daughter, I'm still gonna be a little bit more harsh, or strict, or kind of constraining. But I think as time progresses, there is going to be more Asian Americans that are fathers and mothers, and it's going to dilute this whole super traditional ideology that these Asians have, or Asians from Asia have. Another example I could think of is like Gen Zs. For example, Gen Zs, they're getting spoiled to the brim, right? Gen Zs, they could do whatever the hell they want because their parents are not that strict anymore. So that's also another factor. And when you have these parents that are kind of slowly becoming more soft, I think it opens up the door for other parents to start becoming soft, right? So for example, if my dad is talking to other parents who are having like Gen Z kids or whatever, right? Then it could probably influence my dad to be less traditional. It could probably influence my dad to be more modern sense of thinking. It could probably influence my dad to have more of an open mind and just think that, okay, like this is totally fine. And so yeah, I think that's what prompted my dad just be like, yeah, let's just have dinner with this girl. So yeah, when we have dinner with me, my dad, and my partner, the dinner goes really well. Like my dad and my mom were super chill. They weren't even pressing like about like, oh, are you gonna do this? Or are you gonna do that? Like we just had dinner, and it was really bizarre because I was like, I thought she would get interrogated, right? Because that's usually how it is in Asian cultures, and that's usually how my dad has been with some people or my mom. But they were just super chill and just trying to get to know my partner, just very genuine way. It wasn't like a very superficial manner, and they're still like that with her to this day, which is kind of crazy. So like you could kind of see like her eyes kind of bubbling up, and my impression of it was like it was a really good dinner. And I mean, I was looking around, I was just like, I can't believe this is fucking happening, because it's like, number one, like they're so chill about everything. Number two, she's like super happy over there. Like she's got pretty much like a very supporting mother-in-law and father-in-law. And number three, how are we even having this conversation? You know, like this is insane. Like I always envision myself to like have a marriage, have a wife, and then we don't need to have this discussion at all. Like this discussion would be assumed through marriage. So yeah, I mean, I got into this a lot in that other podcast about like having an idealistic relationship and my thoughts on it, and you know, just having the most ideal relationship before having kids, and how that all changed and how I'm okay with it. So yeah, I mean, like to sum it up, I think that my Asian parents were super chill. Of course, this is not going to apply to everyone. And I did post on Reddit. I made a post about that video, and I tagged that video, and then all that stuff. I wrote some stuff out. And then writing out that post for Reddit, I was kind of like thinking, you know, there's a lot of things I didn't really cover in that video. So that's why I'm also doing this video too. I want to have more of a personal approach to this. And yeah, I'm not on Reddit all the time, guys. Like I just recently got Reddit. So there's another reason why I got Reddit. We'll talk about that later in the video, like at the end. I'm only gonna share this with the people that stick around, because I want people who are serious. But yeah, like I posted on Reddit, and then I was like looking through all the comments. I replied to each single comment on that post too. I'll even post it in this link, the link to that Reddit post. But yeah, I was looking through it, and I was just like, wow, like I think a lot of these Asian dudes, they would have different reactions from their parents, and they were very surprised, and they were like, well, it's really nice that you have these loving and understanding parents. And I think, yeah, for sure. But at the same time, there weren't that many people that commented. I feel like there weren't those guys out there who had very accepting parents as well that commented. I have some people, very, very few amount of people. They're also Asian, and they knocked up some girls, and their parents were very accepting of it as well too. So I think there's a lot of Asians out there who are not talking about how like accepting their Asian parents would be if you're not married and you end up having kids, if you knocked up a girl and you had kids, right? And I think this is a very big topic to talk about, because a lot of Asians out there, it's not a common occurrence that Asians are knocking up people. I think it's more of like a Hispanic and black thing. I'm not being racist, right? That's just from stats, okay? But yeah, like I think it's not a common occurrence for Asians. I think it's the least common out of a lot of cultures, actually. So I think it's a very niche category, and I think like if this ever happens to you, I mean, it's just, you have to look at like how your parents are, I guess, like how your parents would react to it, how traditional, how modern they are, how how open you are about talking about like hooking up with girls. But yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. The next thing I want to talk about is the struggles with how I had to adapt with this big change in my life, right? Because I was, I mean, like I was living my life. I was like doing podcasts, I was getting a lot of things done, and then all of a sudden, this comes up, and I'm like, damn, all my progress is going to be going downhill. It's going to be slowed down. Of course, it's not going. I'm still always going to have progress. I'm still always going to be a hustler. But the thing is, like, it's not going to be as fast as it was before. So I had to deal with that, and like dealing with that, it did take a toll on. I wouldn't say mental health. I mean, that's extreme to say mental health, but I did get a lot of anxiety. Oh God, anxiety is such a bad word too. I don't even like using those words like trauma and PTSD. Like I don't believe in that stuff. I think it's normal for people to have stress, right? Like I wouldn't say my stress levels were like through the roof, but I was stressed. But like what helped me get through this was understanding that this wasn't the first time I had a huge amount of stress. Actually, I've had other occurrences in my life where my stress levels were through the roof. Like, for example, getting expelled from high school, what I just talked about. Like, that was a really big stressor because, like, I mean, you have the whole world pitted against you. Like, for this is like chump change now. And so when I see this, like, yeah, I did have a lot of stress, but at the same time, like, you have to be kind of keen on understanding, like, is this stress that you've been through? Like, have you been through a lot worse? And if you have, like, then this is nothing compared to that. And I know, like, this is all short lived. Like, my daughter right now, she's 2 months old at the time of recording this video. She's 2 months old, but I know it's gonna get better. You know, like the first 6 months is the hardest. First 3 months are the hardest actually. People do say that like after 3 months is when it does get much tremendously better, exponentially better. But yeah, I mean, given that fact, I know that I'll have more time for a lot of the developments that I do want to do, like on the side, a lot of the developments that I do want to do in my whole life, and just accomplishments that I've always wanted to achieve. So, yeah, I think as a man, as an Asian male, I think we're always like striving for more. This is not to say that like men in general don't do that. I think like men in general, like we want to be ambitious and accomplish a lot, and not being able to do that, we get stressed the fuck out. Like if you have that innate masculine nature, you will want to keep hustling and hustling, and if you are not able to, you'll be stressed the fuck out. You know, like all those people out there like playing games, video games all day, every day, they're definitely not achieving that masculine excellence, and they're definitely those that are not really masculine. And I'm just talking about the people who really are true men out there. These are the guys who would be stressed out if they can't do this. I was talking to my brother actually. My brother hasn't had a kid with his wife, and I was like, you know, you get stressed out now when like he does real estate. So I was like, you get stressed out now when you don't have a sale for real estate. But think about when you have a kid, that's going to mitigate you from having more sales. If you let that take a toll on you, then you're not going to live a happy life. You have to just kind of accept the fact that this is something you have to go through in your life and not let it consume you. Because like, I think that's what happens with a lot of the high earner accomplished males that are successful in this world, is that they're so consumed with this desire to like be hustling all day every day. I'm not excluding that. I'm like that, right? But like I think we have to remind ourselves constantly, like with this whole masculine imperative, we have to also push back on that sometimes too, and learn to enjoy the stuff from like family or our kids, right? And so I think that's very important. That's the struggle that I went through, and I think I'm still overcoming that. It's very important because like you have to constantly remind yourself, like as a man, as an Asian man too, that like you can't always be hustling, and sometimes it's okay to delay it a little bit, you know? Yeah, so I guess like we'll now talk about like the struggles I had to deal with my partner. Like this title thing. This is the biggest killer, right? The title thing. So as I mentioned before, like up until now, we're still not boyfriend girlfriend. But I've told her many times, like, I already see you as my girlfriend. You know, I already told her I love her too. I already commit myself for her. I already have devoted a lot of these things, like a lot of, for example, big purchases that I made. For example, just like setting up our future together. All of these things I've already instituted. So yeah, we had a couple like arguments where it was like, she asked like, yeah, I mean, I don't care about the title thing, but I just want to know where our future is what's in store for our future. And I told her, I was like, and I'm going to tell anyone out there too, like this title bullshit, it doesn't mean anything. I'm going to tell everyone the same thing. There's guys out there, a lot of guys that have spouses and they're cheating on their goddamn girlfriends, their girlfriends, their wives, whatever, right? They're cheating on them. Or they're probably in the same scenario as me. They're not married, but then they're out screwing all these girls, right? So I'm telling her, like, yo, like a lot of these things I'm already committed to. I already showed my actions, right? Why do we need to have this title thing? Like, why is it so important? And plus, here's another thing. The kicker is that I don't want it to be contingent that we're together because of this kid. Like, I don't want it to be contingent where because of this kid, like we have this boyfriend girlfriend title, and later down the road we're telling little Sally, that's not my daughter's name, by the way, but little Sally's asking, why did you guys get together? Oh, we got together because of you. I mean, when I was a kid hearing that shit, like my friends telling me why their parents got together, I'm like, this is stupid. This is the dumbest reason I've ever heard. So I'm kind of saving our daughter's like torment, our some of our humility too, by not getting together. You and your partner, whoever you have a kid with, you guys have a natural relationship. This is separate from the kid, right? Some of the reels that I've been coming across is that it's not that the kid is first now. There's a lot of this crap on the internet where it's like, now we have a kid, the kid is first. And then this reel that I watched was like, well, actually, it's the opposite. It should be that the kid is second.
Our kids come second, and that's exactly why they thrive.
People hear that and immediately assume neglect. They assume that putting our marriage first somehow means that our kids suffer.
The truth, they benefit from it.
Because a weak marriage produces exhausted, short-tempered, disconnected parents. A strong marriage produces peaceful, present, emotionally filled parents.
That means we take time for just the two of us before we pour into them.
We connect first, so we give a full cup to them.
If not, it would be like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You won't make it very far before you crash.
Too many parents are drained, resentful, and running on fumes because they've sacrificed their marriage for their kids instead of strengthening their marriage for their kids.
The result, kids grow up in a home where love is routine, not passionate, where parents are roommates, not teammates.
It should be that the marriage or whoever you have a kid with, that should be first. Why is that? The reason is because if you have the kid first, everything's going to fall apart, because you putting the kid first, your relationship, your marriage is not going to be happy. And you know that term, happy wife, happy life, right? So, for example, if you have a very strong relationship with your partner, that is also going to propagate into the relationship you have with your daughter or your son or your kid, right? So I think it's very important that like we distinguish the relationship you have with your partner versus the relationship you have with your kid. And that's why I haven't gone with her officially, but I already tell her, dude, like I already tell her like I love her. I already tell her all these things. And I tell her that like we're pretty much boyfriend girlfriend. I just don't want to have this label. That's the number one reason why I haven't made it official. But like, yeah, in the other podcast, I did talk about like how I'm just really scared of titles. Like, I feel like titles too, like there's been times where I put a title on something and either my expectation went through the roof or her expectation went through the roof or both, right? And so I think what me and my partner have right now, it's really good. And I don't want it to be where when we put something on the line like this title, like I think you're adding extra unnecessary stress and expectation into something, and that could very well be the end of something that is very important and something that your kids need to rely on. And so yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna make her wait like till the end of century until I put a ring on it, right? I mean, I already have my plans in mind. It's just like I saw a couple comments. It was like, oh, that's exactly what a fuck. Come on, guys, come on, like, come on. All right, all right. The next point that I want to talk about is the reputation, and I'll just put it short. I don't feel like there's a lot of reputation loss from this. I don't feel like I had to save face. But I will tie it back into like how I had to save face for my Asian parents, right? Because, I come from a Taiwanese, Hong Kongese, Chinese background, and my parents, they have Chinese friends. And in China, they're super judgmental with this whole like having a kid without being married. Like, I mean, if you look it up online too, like you can find several dozens of videos about like talking about having kids and not being married in China, and how it's like a omen, pretty much. It's like a curse. And so like, yeah, I had to like keep it secret from my parents, like friends, but I was just like, whatever, like it's not even my friends. I don't even see them. But when it came to like Taiwanese or like Hong Kongese friends, it was like completely whatever. But like, yeah, the Chinese friends, it was like they were super cautious about it, and I was just like, it's so weird how that dichotomy works with Taiwanese and Cantonese versus China, right? Aside from my parents' reputation, yeah, I mean, there's some reputation that I had to uphold in my workplace. So I only told a few amount of people at my workplace what happened. I mean, I think it's like a personal thing. Everyone was pretty chill about it. Everyone, I mean, I would say 100% they were chill about it. So not like mostly everyone, but everyone was chill about it. But I still felt like I didn't want that work-life drama, right? I mean, I want to separate my work and my personal life. I've always done that, and I just wanted to stick to that. So, and then also there are some like Taiwanese people in the place I work at. Dude, I worked in a Taiwanese company. I was in Taiwan for like 2 years. I worked there for 2 years. Oh my God. I want to tell you, like, Taiwanese companies, like, people that, like, my Taiwanese coworkers were so dramatic. Like, they had so much drama. It's like the smallest T, they wanted to bring it up into like the most biggest drama, like a drama TV. And I was just like, how is this the talk of like what's going on in the company? And I was like, what the hell? Like this is weird. So like I kind of abstained from like letting my Taiwanese coworkers know, just because like working at that Taiwan company, and like even friends that work at Taiwanese companies in Taiwan, like they know how dramatic it could be. Like they know how much drama Taiwanese companies. It's like high school pretty much, man. I don't know. Like their professional levels over there are just it's kind of ridiculous. It's laughable, man. Like the HR over there didn't give a crap too. Like they could probably say different things about us. They could probably say like our HR over here is like super strict and very formal, and that creates inefficiencies for American companies. That's why American companies are so slow. But how I view it is that like, yeah, American companies are very slow with like remedial tasks, but in terms of like long-term planning, I think like American companies and America has it better, right? But that's aside the point. Yeah, like with reputation, I did have to like save face for myself with these Taiwanese coworkers, but aside from that, it was chill. But what was kind of crazy was when I went to Taiwan just to visit, I had to like tell some of my previous coworkers, just like the ones I was chill with, and yeah, they're like super traditional Taiwanese. So when I told them, they're super chill about it. They were like, yeah, I think this is like becoming a more common occurrence. And I was like, what the hell? Even in Taiwan, this is becoming a more common occurrence. So yeah, it was kind of a surprise with that. And yeah, as I mentioned previously in this video, yeah, I'm 31 and I consider that young. Why do I consider that young? Is because I don't have a lot of friends that have kids. I have very few amount of friends that have kids, but those are friends that have had kids when they got knocked up probably a decade ago. But I say at a young age, because now the age of birthing a child is getting delayed more and more. I think like the average age of having a kid is now like in the 30s or something like that. So I consider like me having a kid when I was at the age of 30. When I had a kid, I was 30, but like I'm 31 now. But yeah, the age of having a kid at 30 or 31, whatever the fuck you want to consider it. I think it's still pretty like young. And I think my thoughts on this is that I feel pretty lonely. The only person I could really resonate with is my partner, and just like this one other couple that is going through the exact same process that me and my partner are going through. I don't know if it has to do with like just my friend group. I mean, not even friend group, but like extended friend group too. Like I have multiple different friend groups, and like just all of my friend groups, I just feel like none of them even have kids. I mean, a lot of friend groups I have, like it could be like older friend groups, it could be younger friend groups or the same age. And all of these, a lot of them don't have kids. And it feels lonely because like a lot of the times I'd be trying to find parents that are going through the same thing that I'm going through. And it's hard because like a lot of these parents that I'm talking to that I'm close with, they're more so they already gone through that phase, or it's like they never even gone through it at all. And so like I'm trying to talk to like some of these people about what I'm going through, and mostly it's people that never even had a kid and they don't understand how hard it is. And I'm only really talking to like a couple parents and my partner about this, and it's hard to get information too. Like when you have a kid when you're younger, like, and I don't even consider myself that young, like 30, 31, but like for having a kid, it's considered young, I feel like, and that's kind of sad, right? Because realistically, I'm not even that young, and then in the parental age, I'm like young, which is what the hell? That makes no goddamn sense. But yeah, it's like kind of lonely because you don't have that many people to resonate with. You also have some friends that wouldn't understand like what you're going through and like the difficulties of the sacrifices that you have to make. And even some homies that are like hitting me up for like bro trips, and I'm like, guys, I can't do that anymore, guys. You know what I mean? And it just, at the end of the day, like you just feel like, man, like, did I have a kid a little bit too early? Because now like my kid won't have that many friends that are children of my friends. So I mean, that's even like less play dates that I get to have with my friends. And I don't know, man, like there's gonna be a deviation from like the age. Like my daughter's gonna be like way older than like my friends' kids, right? So but yeah, I guess I want to share the rest of the story about what happened after I told my parents that I knocked up this girl. So after I told my parents, and I started having like these struggles and these second thoughts. But yeah, I was venting to my dad, and these were like struggles and concerns that I had like periodically for the first couple months. And when I was venting to him, I was saying things like, I never even lived with this girl, so I don't even know how her organizational habits, I don't know how living with her would be like. I don't know how hardworking she is, like with house things, with house chores. Like, would I have to do all the house chores? Because that has happened. And number two is that like I never even argued with her, so I don't know how crazy and irrational she would be in arguments. And yeah, it's cool that like you never argue with someone, but it's also scary because like you don't know how that would be when you guys finally do argue, and if you guys would have this like crazy toxicity where it ends up just exploding and it ends up shutting down your guys' relationship. And the third point is like I think the communication was not really all there. I mean, she's an introvert, and people could argue like, yeah, I mean, people are introverts. Like, what's wrong with being an introvert? I think like communication is very important in a relationship, and if you don't really communicate like your troubles or things you need help on or things that you did, I think that is going to falter in a relationship, and that's how things accumulate, and that's how things never get talked about and get resolved, and that's how explosive anger just comes about. So when I was venting about all these struggles, the biggest one that stood out to me was the lack of emotions. Yeah, I mean, all these three things that I mentioned were not really big things, not really like super big. The biggest thing was that she still had a really stable and good personality, so I could count on that. So I was talking to my dad. I was like, yeah, but like, what if I could find a girl that had all these qualities, like these good qualities, but also I had huge attraction for her, like huge emotions for her, and I liked her a lot. And he asked me something that was very pivotal for how I was able to just completely eradicate all of my troubles and concerns. He asked me, yeah, well, do you think you're going to be able to find that type of girl in your fucked up generation of dating? And I was like, oh shit. I sat there and I was like, I mean, usually I have the answers. Usually I always have a rebuttal, right? Usually I'm that type of guy. Like, I know what to say. I know how to counter things. And I was just like, and he was like, yeah. And he just like got up and left. And I was like, okay. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, you know what? That's true. And so I think you have to be very grateful for what you already have. And I'm extremely blessed that I had this kid with this person. I chose this mother of my child. I chose the right person. I still, to this day, I'm like, you know what? That's a good choice that I made. And I don't have any regrets. It's not like that motto where it's like, okay, you know what? Live your life with no regrets. It's actually, I feel like I don't have regrets because I'm looking at all the positives now and I'm like, you know what? There's so many things that's messed up with dating that you should just be focusing on the positives instead of the negatives. And yeah, it's like what I said in the previous podcast, that not everything is going to be idealistic. So you can't just keep riding on this day where you're going to find that idealistic Cinderella or that idealistic Prince Charming, where that person is going to have the most beautiful children with your genetics. I mean, you're going to be waiting the whole rest of your life. You're probably going to be 55 with no kids, and that's going to be too late for you. So yeah. Yeah, we're going to wrap up this video, but the thing that I want to say about like Reddit, why I'm on it again, is because I started a Discord community for the most elite Asian males out there. I'm only looking for the most elite Asian males. Or if you have like experience with like the Asian male experience, you don't have to be Asian, but if you want a community where you could uplift each other and just talk about problems that you're going through, solutions to problems that you can learn and overcome, then check out the video description where it has the Discord community. Then you can join up and you can see how you can be a contribution to this community and how this community can be a contribution to you and how it can make a difference in your life, how it could uplift you, how you could uplift other men out there. With that, that's it for today's episode. It was a really long episode, but consider subscribing, consider joining the community, and we'll see you guys next time.